back up here speaking again, doing the We Are Family series. This is part 2 of our family series going on. And just want to recap really quickly before I get going into my message tonight, which is regarding difficult people in your family, mainly siblings. So it's gonna get a little juicy tonight. I know we got some siblings in the house. Hope I don't start any issues, but just want to continue and just recap really quick so far what we've learned in this family series. And one of the things that we've learned so far in this family series is Chad spoke a couple weeks ago, and he spoke regarding disconnect, right? So there's like a disconnect between parents and students, you guys, the teens, right? Like there's a disconnect, and that's almost like that's a good thing, right? Like we don't want to see your parents dressed in tight jeans and bumping like Drake and Kendrick Lamar, right? Like, that'd be like a little bit weird, right? We don't really want to see that. We'd rather have our parents stick to their music from like the 70s, 80s, and and I see some of you guys laughing. You're like, yeah, that would be pretty weird if my dad was bumping Drake or something like that. But so we don't want to see that. And with that disconnect, that's a good thing. And why that's a good thing is because that gives us the opportunity to in our role as teens to have a chance to honor our parents. That gives us a chance to honor our father and our mother, and while we're doing that, honor God. And what Chad was talking about a couple weeks ago, he referenced Ephesians 6. And in Ephesians 6, it talks about honoring your father and your mother, and when you do that, there's blessing in that. Like there's total blessing in that. It actually says that you will live longer in the land. So we hear that, and we're all in. We're like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm going to live longer. I'm going to see blessing from God through this. But here's where part 2 comes in tonight, where it gets a little bit more difficult, a little bit more tricky, right? Is there really any blessing with dealing with like difficult family members? What about like your brother and your sister? Does the Bible talk about that? And actually, it does in one way or another. It actually, in the Bible, if you go through, as I was doing research for this message, there's not really a whole lot of verses that actually talk about, brothers and sisters or, brothers and just siblings in general, like how to actually deal with that and how to really, navigate through that space. But there is a lot to say about people and friendships and families. And so we're going to discuss some of that tonight. And so as we're moving through this, talking about siblings and talking about family members that are just so difficult, one thing that I think is clear is that 9 times out of 10, that difficult person in our family is probably our brother and our sister. It's just a fact. And, we just kind of know that. It's tough, when you got that family member, that brother or that sister who's always bugging you. They're always on your nerves. They won't leave you alone. You can't walk 10 steps without them just being like right behind you. Like they're always doing something to try to like mess with you a little bit, right? And I know some of you, and I just want to be clear about this as well. I know some of you tonight are very much like, you know what, Jordan, actually, my brother and my sister don't really give me that many problems. I'm still kind of hung up on what Chad said a couple weeks ago about parents. Like I just can't stand my parents. Like I still have problems with my parents. There's still like a lot of struggles with my parents, and I get that. So one thing I want to be clear tonight is as I'm talking about difficult people in your family, namely siblings, go ahead and insert like family member A or family member X, whoever that is. When I talk about siblings, it can be your parents, it can be your aunts and uncles, it can be like your crazy old grandma who just says whatever she can say and she gets away with it because everyone's like, oh, she's just old and cute, it's like whatever, and you're just like, nah, she can't really say that, but it's cool. Like I totally, like that's okay, that's not that big of a deal, right? Sometimes we think that, we're not really sure, but let's be clear. So when we move on and we talk about this, it is very, very true, and I want to explain this and get into this a little bit, but living out your faith with, in front of your family is one of the most difficult things to do, right? It's just a known fact. Living out your faith in front of your family is one of the most difficult things to do. And you guys hear me say that, and you might be like, actually, Jordan, that's really not that hard for me to do. Like, I'm from a Christian home, whatever. I'm actually more scared about walking down the street to Starbucks and talking to the barista like about Jesus or something. And I totally hear you on that, because that's something that for me, I'd be like a little bit nervous about that too, going to talk to somebody about Jesus. But let me clarify what I mean here. What I mean here is that family sees everything you do. Family is around you in your good times, but they're also around you in your bad times, as we're going to get into talking about in a little bit. So what I mean when I say living out your faith in front of your family is one of the most difficult things to do is that some of you are not from Christian homes, and you're not really sure still. You're still kind of struggling with how to navigate being a Christian in a family where your mom's not a Christian, your dad's not a Christian, right? And you still kind of struggle with that. And so that's what I mean with saying it's difficult, because you have to so many times probably feel like you need to put on like your best self. You need to put on, that I'm a Christian. I'm trying to show my family. I'm trying to show like my mom and my dad like what it really means to, to follow Christ. I'm still trying to be like a witness for them. And it's hard because a lot of times they're going to see you when you're just straight up like pissed off and you're just mad about something that, you come home from a long day at school and you just want to like scream and cuss and just, be all mad and start throwing things. And they see that and you're like, oh man, it totally just blew my witness. So that's what I mean when I say living out your faith in front of your family is one of the most difficult things to do. Just want to clarify that. And so as we transition in here to talking about why is it so difficult to live with your family, like why is it just such a difficult thing to live in a confined area, a confined space with these same individuals that you see every day? And the first reason is this. Bottom line, you're stuck with them. You didn't choose them, right? You did not go ahead and choose your family members. You did not have the opportunity to, like when you were born, like God didn't come back to you when you were 2 years old and be like, hey, you still good with these guys? Like you go with them? Or do you want like a new one? I can like move you and bring you over here and we could try out a new family, new brother, new sister. I know that one sister's really annoying, so we could move you over here to this one. Like he's not doing that, right? Like he has put you in the family you're in for a designed purpose, which sometimes we question and we're like, Lord Jesus, what is this purpose? Like, I don't get it. I cannot handle this family. They are driving me nuts right now. But bottom line is you're stuck with them. You cannot choose a new family. You can't choose a new brother or a new sister. You're stuck with them and you're in it for the long haul. 18 to 20 years before you move out, before you go to college, get married, whatever it is, you have to live with them all the time. And I don't say this in a way to totally sound like condescending or just sound like so negative, like it's a terrible thing to have siblings. Like I have my own siblings and we have a great bond. We laugh, we have a great time whenever all of us are in town together. My one brother is away at school right now at Liberty University where I went, and he's back home now, so we have a great time just hanging out, and just it's always fun whenever the whole family is back together. And I don't want it to sound like, as I go forward in this message, that, it's just such a terrible thing, like, to have siblings. It's not at all. It's a great thing, and it's a gift. And when I think of a great brotherly bond, there's actually a group of brothers that come here to Prime Time that I think of, and that is the Cognier brothers. I see Paul back there, and his brother Mark are always here. And when I see those two guys and the brotherly bond that they have, what mainly comes to mind is 9 Square. And I'm out in 9 Square playing 9 Square with them. And a lot of times they're like plotting to like get like the next person that comes in. So like Mark will be over here and then Paul's over here. And they're like, all right, bro, I'm going to set it over to you. And we're going to get this person. And like I'll like be on the receiving end of that. And I'll just be like, yeah, they just jumped like right over me, ball in my head. So that's never fun. But when I see that and I see that brotherly bond, like you got to just be happy about that. You see that and it just makes you so happy. So I just want to say that there is that brotherly bond, sisterly bond, brother-sister bond, whatever it may be, is truly an awesome thing, and it's a gift from God. So that first reason you're stuck with them, that's the first reason why it's difficult to live with family. Second reason is that, move forward here. Reason number 2 is, they know you better than anyone. There we go. All right, couldn't find it for a second. They know you better than anyone, right? So your brothers, your sisters, they have lived with you, like we just said. You're stuck with them in this confined area of space for, most likely like 15 to 20 years, whatever it is. And they see you in your good side. They see your bad side. They see when you're happy. They know when you're really mad. They see when you're like totally frustrated and you're just so upset with whatever's going on. And because of that, they know what pushes your buttons a little bit. They know those little things to do to you where, most other people won't know. Like your best friend won't know like the tiniest little things that's going to make you irk. But your brother or your sister will, because they spend all the time with you when you wake up early in the morning and you're just really not a morning person, or maybe it's late at night and you're trying to get some sleep and they come over and they do that thing where they rub a little feather on your face, or they like spray some of that little like whipped cream or something like that, shaving cream, whatever it is, right? So they know those little things that are going to get you to irk, and that's another reason, is because they know you better than anyone. And then the third thing, and this goes for everybody, is that like family members and people in general, we're all selfish, right? Like we are selfish, needy creatures, as my friend Tim Isgirl likes to say. Tim's an adult leader here, and he always says to me, he goes, Jordan, he goes, people are just selfish, needy creatures. It's just what they are. And it's the truth about us, and we don't even like to admit it about ourselves, but it really is the truth. We are selfish, needy creatures, and we always want to get our way. So once again, going back to that confined space, like think about the house you live in. You live in a certain area of space with the same people for 15 to 20 years, and you all want what you want. You're all selfish. You all want a certain thing. I'm sorry to burst your bubble tonight by telling you you're selfish. I hope you get something like, I'm not selfish. You are. It's okay. You're selfish. It's all right. You just got to move on. Once you learn that, life will be a lot easier for you, all right? And so one thing that I think is a great example for this is there's a TV show. It's not my favorite TV show, so before I give this analogy, just try to hold in. But a TV show that shows a group of people that live in a confined space and how they deal with each other's personalities is The Bachelor, right? So you have like, yeah, all the girls are like, and the guys are like, come on, bro, you had to pick that TV show. But I did. Just bear with me here on this analogy, right? So you have all these girls, these 20 girls who are trying to get this one man to fall in love with them, and they want them to get down on one knee and propose, right? Like, it's just such like a sweet love show. But before all of that happens, you have 20 crazy women. Like, you got to be crazy to go on the show, first of all, as I'm saying. You have to be absolutely insane because you go on this show and you have these girls, and what are they doing? They're living together, right? What are they? They're selfish. They all want this one guy to like them and to fall in love with them. So what do? You get a group of girls over here that just kind of start plotting. They're like, all right, what are we going to do with this girl? Like, she's pretty high up right now. He's really, he's loving her. So let's do whatever we can to sabotage her. And then you get the other girl over here like, all right, I need somebody to plot up with me and, so we can get her and make sure that they get voted off. They don't want a rose. We really don't want them to get a rose, right? And they're just going back and forth. And we love this, right? Like, absolute mayhem ensues, right? And then everybody tries to, like, watch it up on the last day when he gives out the final rose or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, it's such a sweet show. But no, really, this show is absolutely crazy. There's mayhem that ensues. It's absolutely ridiculous, right? And we watch it, and that's why it's the most watched TV show in America, right? It is what it is, okay? So whenever you're thinking of selfish people, just think of The Bachelor. That's what I like to think of. So now that we've established what makes our siblings so good at being difficult or how we're so easily annoyed by them, let's begin to move forward on how do we deal with them actually as Christ followers, right? Because, a lot of us in here tonight, we would identify as Christ followers. We would identify as those people who really want to see a change in our family. We want to see forgiveness take place. There's that space in our family where it's just kind of awkward. Sometimes there's that like white elephant in the room and you don't really know how you're going to fix it or what you're going to do. And so as Christ followers, we want to know how to really, work with that. What do we do with that? Oh, that's good. And the Bible does discuss how to deal with people like this. And more specifically, a great book, Chad referenced it a couple weeks ago, is Paul's letter to the Ephesians. And in the book of Ephesians, Paul is writing a lot of more so teachable moments and encouraging moments, whereas in a lot of his other letters, what he's writing is just a lot of correction, a lot of rebuke, which means like a lot of almost like punishment, and he's really like trying to correct a lot of wrongs that are going on. Whereas in the book of Ephesians, in the letter of Ephesians, he's writing it to the church in Ephesus, and it's really just to teach and encourage them and just show them how to live in unity, to show them how to live and get along with one another. And it's really a whole group of people that are close friends, close family, and they're all unified under Christ. And so that's how we can kind of relate to this story tonight as I'm going to tell it for a little bit. And in this first verse I want to discuss is Ephesians 4, verse 32. And it says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another, just as in Christ God forgave you." So, like, first of all, we read that, and we're like, whoa, hold up. Kind and compassionate. So, when your little brother, girls, say you have your boyfriend over for dinner with the family. Let's say your little brother comes up, and he makes some totally embarrassing comment about you in front of your boyfriend, and you're just like, oh my gosh, he did not just say that. I'm going to kill him. You're not thinking, oh, I need to go be kind and compassionate to my little brother. No, you're like, where's that little twerp? I'm going to nail his head in real quick, right? Like that's what I would be thinking if I was in your shoes. And so there's this whole kind of upside down thinking, this what we would call like an upside down theology within, a lot of the Bible and what Jesus taught about when he was alive and now what Paul's writing about. He's saying, no, in those type of situations, be kind and compassionate to one another. And then he moves on to say, forgiving one another, just as in Christ God forgave you. And when we talk about the word forgiveness, I know a lot of us hear about this word, in the world, it's a word that we use sometimes, but in the Christian sphere, we use the word forgiveness like a lot because it's the biggest thing that happened to us. It's what Jesus did for us, right? But a lot of times we don't have the best definition of it. And so I want to go over a quick definition for us right now that I have right here. And the definition is this. Forgiveness is the act of releasing someone of their wrongs fully, freely, and forever. Let me read that again. Forgiveness is the act of releasing someone of their wrongs fully, freely, and forever. And when we read that definition, the thing that I want to point out to you guys is that when you're forgiving someone, when you're forgiving, that person that really is just bugging you, or when you're trying to figure out how to deal with that little brother who's just, my gosh, if he gets on my nerves one more time, I'm going to kick him or something. How do we deal with that? Is we're supposed to release them of their wrongs fully, which means not partially, not like a little bit, not hold on to it a tiny bit, freely, which it's free, we just do it and we don't continue to dwell on it, and then forever, which means we don't bring it up again in a couple months when they do something mean to us or they steal something of ours that they weren't supposed to take, right? We don't do that. It's fully, it's freely, and it's forever, right? So I want to keep that in mind. As you hear me talk about forgiveness, that is a proper definition of what forgiveness is. And a lot of us, we hear about forgiveness and we're like, it's okay, so I really have to be kind and compassionate right off the bat, and I just have to forgive them. How am I supposed to do that? Can't I just be angry for just a little bit? Sometimes if you're like me, you're like, screw this. I just want to be angry for a little bit. Just let me be mad. Let me go sit in my room. Let me close the door. Let me put on some tunes. Let me just chill out. But and you're not supposed to do that, apparently. You're supposed to just forgive, and it's all good, right? That's a hard thing to do. No one's saying that is an easy thing to do, right? And you can go ahead and stay angry. I'm not telling you that you can't be angry about something. But what I am saying is that's not the freedom of forgiveness that Jesus is calling us into. That's not the freedom of forgiveness that was given to you when Jesus died for you on the cross, right? He gave you freedom and forgiveness, and he gave it to you freely, right? So that's something that we have to remember is you can go ahead and be angry, but that's not the life that as Christ followers we are called to go into, right? And, showing forgiveness to our family is our exact opportunity to be more like Christ, to show our family an example of the gospel and forgiving those who have done wrong to you. That sounds to me like the perfect example of what Jesus did for us when he saved us and when he forgave us of our sins, right? And just going off some funny stories from myself. I know I promised today I would give some funny stories regarding me and my siblings, and there's a couple that come to mind. With my brother Brendan. I don't know if he's here right now. I can't see him, but no, he's not here. I'm getting head shakes now. Okay, good, because I tried to call him earlier to ask him if it was all right if I shared the story, and he didn't answer, so now I'm glad he's not here, so I'm just going to say it anyway. But so when I was in high school, we used to have this thing, and we still do sometimes, because when he's home in the summer and when I'm home, he used to always take my clothes, and it used to always tick me off, especially the brand new ones that I would just get. And so one time in high school, I came home from basketball practice. I think it was a Saturday afternoon. I came home from basketball practice, and I'm just tired, and I'm beat. And I come home, and what do I see? I see Brendan wearing, my brand new, Air Jordan t-shirt that I just bought from the mall, a couple days before, and I was livid. I was so upset. I was like a bull with raging horns. I was like, here we go, and I just ran at him. And I didn't even stop to think twice about it, and I just went, and I was just nah, and I just tackled him. And the worst part was my little sister had this big Barbie Ken doll playhouse, and I just tackled him right on top of it, and that went flying to the ground. We start tumbling around, we're punching, we're throwing jabs. We're going absolutely ballistic. And my mother, who's here, God bless her soul, runs over and just starts to break us up. My dad wasn't home at the time, so she's trying to break us up or whatever. And then the worst part about it was I got grounded that night, and I could not go out to one of my good friends' birthday parties that was happening that night. I still remember this night. I was devastated about it. And the reason I tell you guys that story, besides it's a hilarious story, and now, Brendan and I, we're a little bit better about sharing clothes. Let's just say those brawls don't happen anymore, but they could. There's still a chance that they could. But the reason I do tell you that story is to say there's a proper way to react to family members when they do wrong. And I know I'm talking about this whole idea of forgiveness, and clearly I did not exude the proper response that night when my brother took, my favorite brand new t-shirt. I did not react the way I should have, but there is a proper way to react. And so we just kind of have that choice. And that's what I want to put forward with you guys right now. And some of you guys may be hearing me talk, and you're thinking, like, Jordan, is there really, like, any chance for my family? Like, you have no idea. Like, when I go home at the end of the day, like, my family members don't even talk. My mom and my dad, like, they barely speak. When they do speak, they're just fighting all the time. When I try to talk to my brothers or my sister, it either ends in a fist fight or it ends in someone just getting so upset and just, cussing the other person out. So I totally understand that, and I want to lay some before you guys that, thinking about that verse that we just read earlier, and another verse that I have for you guys is Romans 12:18, and it says this. It says, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with one another. As far as it depends on you, live at peace with one another. And that's another one of those things, and Paul wrote this in the book of Romans, and he says, live at peace with one another. And we think about trying to live at peace with other people, and it's just not something that normally, like if it's someone we don't like or they do something to us that we don't like and we're angry, we don't naturally just think, once again, oh, I should just live at peace with them. No, like we want to like hurt them, right? But I'm here to, once again, try to teach you guys this idea of like this upside down theology, which is, no, to try to live at peace with them. That's what God's called us to do. That's the unity that there is in the body of Christ. As followers of Jesus, as Christ followers, we're called to live in unity, right? We're called to live in unity together. And so here's I've got two just big ideas that I want to put before you guys today. And the first one is, even though family members can be difficult, we should always be quick to forgive them because Jesus first forgave us, right? We should always be quick to forgive them because Jesus first forgave us. And the second one is this. When we choose to forgive our difficult family members, we're opening the door to help unify and build community. We're opening the door to help unify and build community within our homes. And so when we do that, and it's such a tough thing for us, and as I just said, just a bit ago, in your homes, you might feel like, you've come from a home that's not a typical Christian home, and you don't know what that even looks like. Like, you read that, and you're like, to be honest, Jordan, like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what exactly is unity? And I'm not trying to make a joke of it, but what exactly is unity, and what exactly is building community within your home? Like, I don't even know what that looks like. And I know that's hard, and that must be like such a tough thing to have to go through, and we're here for you to go through that, and to go through that with you. But the main thing I want to highlight is you have the chance right now to be able to build community within your homes. When you guys make the choice to forgive, that is your chance to build community. That's your chance to open the door for God to do something, for God to be the one person that they see in your life when you forgive. Your family members, if they're not used to that and they see that, your brothers and your sisters, when they see that, there's a chance that they may just be like, wow, like that's something different that I haven't seen. They'll notice that change in you. And I don't want to hype this up, like if you go home and do this tonight, it's just going to be perfect, and it's going to be everything you ever wanted, because you know what? Chances are it probably won't. It's going to be tough. But God has called us to do the tough things. God has called us to build community within our families. God has called us to build unity inside our families. And that's what we're called to do. That's what Paul was calling us to do in Ephesians, and that's what Jesus calls us to do as well. And so here's just my couple of questions that I want to leave you guys with tonight is, so what are you going to do when family continues to hurt you and to do wrong? Are you going to hold on to the past and stay angry and upset? Like, you've got two choices here. Are you going to stay angry and upset, or are you going to freely forgive and freely let go and freely just look to see God do the work? Because it's not up to you to do the work. It's up to you to be obedient to what God's calling you to do. And so that's what I want to leave you guys with tonight. Worship team, you can begin to head up. And just want to say this one more thing. God's forgiven you. He's given you the opportunity to forgive others and begin to see unity come to your family. And which choice are you going to make? He's forgiven us, and he wants to see us do the same to others.